All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joseph Houston, and as the director of the Lewiston Public Library, I would like to welcome you all to the Great Falls Forum. The Forum is a monthly speaker series featuring leaders in the areas of business, public policy, academia, and the arts, and is a partnership of Bates College, the Sun Journal, and the Lewiston Public Library. This year marks the 28th season of the Great Falls Forum. We thank you for your support and ensuring the program's continued success. Today's program will also be streaming live via Zoom, and a recording will be available on the library's YouTube page. Please visit lplonline.org for more information. Please mark your calendars for our next Great Falls Forum on February 19th with Scott Shanneman of Lost Valley. At the conclusion of today's program, there will be an opportunity for audience questions. Those in the room are welcome to raise their hands, and those joining us virtually can enter their questions using their Q&A feature on Zoom, and we'll read these to our speakers. Now, I have the pleasure of introducing today's featured speakers, Bryan Kaenrath and Conley. Bryan Kaenrath became Lewiston's city administrator on May 5th, 2025, bringing with him a leadership approach rooted in strategic focus, trust building, and responsible fiscal stewardship. A former Maine legislator and city administrator in Saco and Waterville, Kaenrath's belief is effective local government starts with visibility, trust, and accountability. From his first days in Lewiston, he made clear that City Hall should not feel distant or insular, but present in neighborhoods and responsive to residents. His approach emphasizes transparency, frequent engagement, and rebuilding confidence in local government. Central to Kaenrath's agenda is public safety, which he has identified as the city's most urgent and consistently voiced concern. Kaenrath views public safety not as an isolated issue, but as the foundation for business investment, community pride, and quality of life. Bryan Kaenrath appointed Chief Conley to lead Maine's second largest law enforcement agency following a deliberate, community-informed selection process. Chief Conley emerged as a clear choice based on her experience, credibility, and deep understanding of Lewiston. A nearly 25-year veteran of the department, she has served in a wide range of roles, ranging from patrol and investigations to supervisory leadership. She has earned the respect of officers, city leadership, and community partners alike. As chief, Conley is focused on strengthening public safety through visibility, professionalism, and partnership. She has underscored her commitment to building trust through open communication, equitable service, and strong collaboration with residents and community organizations across Lewiston. Please join me in welcoming Bryan and Conley to Great Falls Forum.
Okay, good afternoon. We want to thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate the great turnout to talk about what is a really important topic for Lewiston. Before we begin, I just want to acknowledge a few people in the room. We have some elected officials here. I see Mayor Carl Shaleen, Councilor Scott Harriman is here, Representative Mana Abdi is here. I just saw her, yeah. And we have many others from the community, so I really appreciate you being here to hear us out today. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about kind of where we are with, as a city, as a police department, and with public safety in Lewiston. We're going to talk about where we're going. We're going to talk about some of the current, really the demands and issues the department is facing, including staffing and recruitment. We'll talk more about that. And then we'll also talk about some upcoming initiatives that we really want to put forward that we think will make some progress with public safety in Lewiston. In Joey's introduction, he did mention that I thought public safety was our #1 priority. I really do believe it is, and I think we have a few major priorities for the city, including public safety, including economic development, and including building community and improving the city's image and reputation. And I think in order to really make major strides in economic development and improving the city's image, it starts with public safety. It starts with getting a better handle on some of the negative headlines we see happening in the paper all the time. So Public safety, I believe, is number one, but economic development and the city's reputation and building community, a sense of community here, are all really important priorities, but we believe it starts here. So Carly, we'll be going back and forth through this presentation, but I'll turn it over to Carly.
Thank you, and thank you for taking the time to come and visit with us and allow us to present to you a little bit about what the city administrator just explained. Basically, we're going to go over a little bit of what the police department has, what we currently have to offer, and what we are looking to implement, as the city administrator said, to assist with public safety. You know, that's obviously our main focus, our main goal at the agency, and I think it should be a huge focus of the city. And I'm fortunate to have, the working relationship that I have with the city administrator, that we're on the same page as far as that goes.
So I think we have, just for folks who may not be familiar with Lewiston, maybe watching from away, just a little snapshot of the city. We are about 39,000 people, just under. We're at 35.2 square miles. We're actually one of the younger communities in the state, with an average or a median age of 37.8. And another number to point out is we do have a poverty rate of 17.7%, which is a little bit higher than a number of other larger cities in the state. So just at a glance for those who may not be familiar with our community.
So this is just basically, our mission as a police department at the agency, and the approach that we try to take. It says, it is the mission of the Lewiston Police Department to create an atmosphere of partnership with the community toward the common goal of protecting life and property and enhancing the overall quality of life. We strive to accomplish this through mutual trust and respect and the fair and equitable enforcement of law, while carefully safeguarding the dignity of all we serve. And really, the way we look at this is, we have a job in the city, but ultimately we need to work together. We want to be out there, we want to engage, we want this to be a partnership with the community. Lewiston as a community needs to have all the same goals in mind, and we all need to work collaboratively to get there.
So the Lewiston Police Department delivers services in a few different buckets. There's, of course, patrol, response, and visibility, which we'll talk more about. Visibility is very important. Investigations, special assignments and task forces, and also education, outreach, and working with community partners. And, I just said a moment ago, building community is really important, visibility is really important, and so we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But these are the main 4 areas of service from the LPD.
So I'll touch on these a little bit, and, I want to keep this as casual as we can. So if I'm on a slide and I'm explaining something that somebody doesn't understand, obviously feel free to raise your hand and I can expand on that. I've been doing this job for 25 years, so I know the agency inside and out, and sometimes I may forget to provide some context for the community on that. Patrol response and visibility, I mean, that's the basic, what you see every day when you're on the street. So we have 3 shifts at the agency. We call it first, second, and third. They work 8-hour shifts. On average, we have 7 to 8 officers on duty at a time, which may or may not sound like a lot, but when we hover around 50,000 calls for service a year, it's a lot for them to manage, to be honest. And then in the patrol unit or division, we have what's called a watch commander, usually a lieutenant, and a sergeant, which is usually like the road supervisor. Investigations and follow-up, that would be what our detective bureau is. That's our CID division. We have a lieutenant that's in charge of that division, as well as 2 sergeants that are in charge of basically sort of a youth criminal investigation side, and then an adult side. So some deal with like the violent crime stuff, some deal with more of our juvenile areas. And then we have, I think, 12 detectives currently. Do you have a question?
Yes. Who handles complaints about police violence, like violence by police and wrongful arrest and arrest?
Yep. So what you could do is any of us could handle that, or any supervisor could handle that. You would.
Complaint as of July 15, I think.
Okay.
Nobody's contacted City administrator there, welcome.
If you want to, at the end of this, we can touch base after. Does that work for you?
I don't get arrested first. Okay.
Okay.
And just a program, we know we do have Q&A following the presentation, so there'll be plenty of time for questions the last 20 minutes or so.
So the special assignments and task forces, we're very fortunate in Lewiston. We have actually several of those. We have what's called the crew team, crime reduction unit. So that's made up of a sergeant and then when we're fully staffed, 2 officers that work under him or her. And really that job is to just deal with any of the issues in the city that are specific to specific issues going on. So it could be an area of the city where we're dealing with like major, speeding complaints. It could be an area where we're dealing with sort of drug-related issues. Their job is to really like focus on the areas that are issues for us within the city. We also have the community resource team, which is made up of a sergeant and 2 patrol officers assigned to that. And they really handle, I would say, probably 80% of our community outreach. And then we have several officers that work hand in hand. They're called TFOs, task force officers, that are assigned to our federal partners. So we have FBI, we have DEA, we have MDEA, we have ATF, we have HSI. And they all work in the building. That's the one great thing about this new building that we have. All of our federal partners are in the building, and that is a huge resource to us. So we have officers assigned to those. And
HSI, is that Homeland Security?
yes, yeah, Homeland Security investigations. Yeah. As far as staffing, 86 sworn officers is what we are supposed to have. So the breakdown of that is 42 in patrol, and like I explained a little bit earlier, on average 8 officers on duty at a time, each shift, first, second, and third. And then 17 supervisors, 13 are assigned to those special assignments that I just mentioned, 12 detectives, and 2 administrators. Right now, we have 8 vacant positions. We have 2 that have been just hired, and they'll go to the police academy, which is a 12-week process, or 18-week process, and then another 12 weeks of field training before they're considered an officer that can go, handle calls by themselves. So the vacancies are a little bit of an issue for us. This is just a breakdown of the calls by year. You can see it's pretty self-explanatory. We hover right around, probably on average, I would say 50,000. And then this is an example of some of our top calls for service. It's the top 10 for 2025. So as you can see, follow-up paperwork service, that's probably kind of convoluted to understand, but we respond to calls, but then there's also a lot of follow-up that involves that. So it might be you respond to, a theft in progress, and then you need to go follow up with the suspect or the victim or talk to a witness. So that gets classified as that. So that's why those are high. Vehicle stops, as you can see, around 5,000. Abandoned 911 calls, those are like hang-up calls where someone calls 911 and hangs up. We respond to those at all times because, it could be somebody that tried to call 911 and then is in need of our help. Criminal trespass is one that we deal with quite often, and you can move past this, but most of those are, unless anyone has questions about what these calls are.
What
Melissa?
domestic violence and trafficking you classified under, because I don't see it necessarily.
It would be classified as a domestic, and that doesn't mean those don't exist. It just doesn't come in as our top 10 calls for 2025. This is just a snippet of the top 10 for each year.
Just a quick note, if we have questions that come in during this portion before the Q&A, if you could repeat it before you answer, because the Zoom folks are not hearing.
No problem.
So community outreach and partnerships, very important to the LPD, very important to city administration, and something we want to continue to promote as a major initiative for the police department. Listening sessions, the first item on the list. Since I've been here, we've done a number of listening sessions out in the community. We've done a couple with Chief Conley also now. Tonight, actually, we're going to be right here on Lisbon Street at IFCA Community Services. That's tonight at 5:30 to 7. We'll be doing another community meet and greet and listening sessions. So these are really important to get out, hear public feedback directly, and be visible and be present to the people we serve. So that's really important for us. Carly, you want to talk about some of the other things happening here? A lot of community engagement that we don't always hear about maybe, but they are involved really in so many different areas of the city and with many different organizations.
Yeah, so this is a snippet of the list of things we do. We couldn't put them all up here. And we're always looking for new ideas when it comes to this. So, feel free to reach out to us for that. Coffee with a Cop is sort of, our Crow team really manages that. And what that is they'll, for example, go to Oak Park and they'll meet once a month with them and just sit down with the members or residents there and just listen. It's basically a smaller version of the listening session that the city administrator referenced that we'll be doing tonight. And they have several pockets and organizations within the city, in the community, that they do the Coffee with a Cop. Drug Take Back, some of you may have heard of that. That's where at the high school, I think it's twice a year right now that people can come in and return their prescription drugs and things like that, and then they dispose of them. That's gone down a little bit because there's a lot of places like CVS and Walgreens now, and we have one at the police department where if you want to get rid of your prescription drugs, you can just throw them in there. School visits, we have 2 or 3 officers in the schools right now, assigned to the schools, and that is, if I could have 10 officers in the schools, I would. I think that's a great program. As far as personnel, it's hard staffing-wise, but we have sergeants and supervisors who are ready to retire that still get phone calls from kids that when they worked in the school with them 15 years ago, they're calling them. So the connection that officers can make on a daily basis in the schools with kids, I think is, I can't speak highly enough about that. So we have the officers in the schools, but we also have our Crow team and other officers that regularly visit the schools and participate in programs. Special Olympics is another big one. We usually have the winter and summer. Sometimes the winter Olympics is at Lost Valley, but the summer Olympics a lot of times is at the different tracks, whether it be the high school. Sometimes it's at Lewiston High School for the swim stuff. But we have officers that go there and participate in those and hand out medals to the participants, and that's great for the officers and the participants. It's really a good program. PSY, we have Project Support You workers. Those are basically, right now we have 2, or we're in the works of getting a 3rd. Where mental health professionals basically co-respond and respond or follow up on mental health related issues that officers come into contact with. So, and a lot of times it could be something where, we're going to a specific residence time and time again, and, we're doing the best that we can on our part, but they can really offer them a variety of services. So we touch base with our PSY worker, and they will touch base with them and offer them some other services. Meet and greets with new Mainers, that's also a thing that the Crow team is heavily involved in, as far as providing education, meeting with new Mainers, basically setting up meetings where they explain to them, just the basics of how law enforcement works and various things, and answer any questions they have. Wreaths Across America is something that we're involved in. The Battle of the Badges, that is the hockey thing. Most of our guys at the agency are very big in hockey. Lewiston historically is a hockey town. It's kind of one of those things that sometimes even when people are applying, it somehow comes out whether or not they play hockey or not. So that's a great program. And then the Police Athletic League, they're involved. They organize movie nights and various activities. They also do a hockey event once a year, I believe. And then Bates College, we work our community resource team, and we work very closely with Bates, but our community resource team also meets with them and the new students coming in. You know, our community resource sergeant sort of is the contact with Bates if there's ever any issues or things that need to be resolved. We worked with them for the Halloween thing that they've been, which is, I see you in the crowd, that's good. Hopefully we do that again next year. And then the Citizens Police Academy, this is a great program. This is, I don't know what it's at time-wise now. I think it's like right around 10 weeks, but it's basically this, a program where people can come in, and our community resource team manages this also. They run it at least once a year, sometimes twice, depending on how many people are interested. And it really is just this program where it just gives you education as far as, you know, what the police department looks like, what laws exist, what the jail looks like, what we do for community outreach. It's really just an educational piece. Go ahead.
It's wonderful. That Citizens Police Academy taught me so much, so I just would put in a plug for that. I don't know if you repeat that, but
So,
it's a wonderful 10-week program.
Okay.
Commitment, but you learn a lot.
thank you. Okay, so for anybody who couldn't hear, what she was saying is that she's participated in the Citizens Police Academy, and she thought that it was a wonderful program, that it really educated her and it taught her a lot. So if anybody wants to apply, we're always taking applicants. This is just basically the process to apply to become a police officer. So you need to be at least 20 years old. You need to pass a physical fitness test at the MCJA, which that's short for the Maine Criminal Justice Academy. That's where individuals go for the 18-week program. You need to pass a polygraph exam, a psychological evaluation, and you must be a US citizen or naturalized.
So I think we're going to transition more into the initiatives now of what we're looking at for the future of LPD. So we're going to continue to press on a community engagement in a big way. Recruitment really is, I think, our #1 challenge. As Carly said, we're down 8 officers right now. That has fluctuated between 8 and even, I think, upwards of 14 or 15 just since I've been here. So it's a moving target a little bit, but we have not been at full staff in a very long time. So recruitment is a critical issue. In order to talk about many of these community policing initiatives, in order to get more officers out into the community, obviously we need the numbers. And when they're answering sometimes 1,000 calls for service a week, there are 7 officers on a shift. It doesn't leave a lot of time for extra in getting out into the community and doing some of these other initiatives with the community policing. So we need officers, so recruitment is a big one. Police substations, we'll talk more about this, but Lewiston used to have a number of police substations. We want to get back on this track. They're really important for local community engagement and visibility, so substations. And then we have a couple of pieces more on the technology side. This is new technology being used by law enforcement in a number of areas, including flock safety and drone technology. That's really kind of on the cutting edge and what the future looks like. So we'll get into each of these categories now, starting with community engagement.
So community engagement, recruitment, as he mentioned, is huge for us. So much so that we've dedicated a recruitment officer that is currently assigned to our community resource team. You know, we talk about all the things we want to do. We want to be proactive. We want to engage with the community. We want more officers in the schools. There's all these things that we would like to have, but ultimately we can't do some of that stuff if we're not fully staffed. So, you know, one of my first things when I became chief was really creating a focus on that. We need to get people in the door, get them trained, get them ready to go so that we can do some of the things that we'd like to do. So what we did is as I said, we had a recruitment officer position filled. Officer Bergeron has been assigned to that. She's doing a phenomenal job. She's very proactive, very engaged, reaching out to schools. And then one of the other things that we looked at is marketing, right? Because to be honest, we were a little antiquated when it came to, you know, probably advertising ourselves. And in general, law enforcement is not very good at that. So we looked at this thing called a police app, and what this police app does is it pushes out marketing nationwide. And the key to that, in some regards, is, as I mentioned before, I talked a little bit about when you hire a new officer who's never been a police officer, right? So you hire this new officer, he or she goes to the academy for 18 weeks, then they get out of the academy, and then they do 12 weeks on a field training program, because they're not ready to go on the road. They need to come here and learn, really put what they just learned into practice. So you're looking at upwards, almost close to a year before hiring, before somebody's actually ready to count as a position at your agency. So we're kind of always playing catch up. Like right now, we're down 8, we have 2 in the academy. This spring, we're gonna lose 4 based on just retirement stuff. So the good thing about the nationwide recruitment, and we've had this in play for, I would say, 2 months roughly, probably not even 2 months, but we're already getting applicants. We interviewed somebody from New Orleans 2 days ago. So, and these are people who are already officers. So if you get an officer who's already an officer, it's a very abridged training program. The academy approves them. They say they're good to go. We do a shorter field training. We teach them the laws and city ordinances and things and policies that coincide with our agency. And you have about a 4-week process before they can become an officer. So that's a huge thing for us. And we've seen some good results, really early good results. So we're hopeful that continues. We want to talk about the, did you want to talk about the, or you want me to talk about that? The other thing that we're doing right now is community engagement. That's huge to us. It's a huge piece. And as the city administrator said, some of the challenges we run into, we have the community resource team, but some of the challenges we have with low staff is these officers are working 16-hour days. There's not a lot extra time to do the extra community engagement. So what we're looking to do this year is budget. I would love to budget 16 hours, but financial constraints exist, obviously, but basically budget 4 hours of paid time for officers to participate in community engagement and sort of individualize that. Like we have our block parties, we have movie nights, we have Special Olympics, we have things that are in place right now at the agency that people will go and participate in. But it's our opinion that buy-in, and we have 86 officers there, everybody has a different strength, everybody has a different weakness. We want them to participate in community engagement that would be approved, obviously, by staff, whether it be going to Kennedy Park and playing in the basketball court with somebody, going to the library and reading with some kids, going to play soccer, whatever the case may be, 4 hours a year, approved time to do some community engagement. So that's one of the other things that we're looking at. Take-home vehicle program. You want me to talk about this, or
Absolutely.
Go for it if you want? Okay, so this is another program that we're looking at, and to be honest, it's a huge recruitment tool. It's we sit in these interviews with new officers, and right now we look at the state police, they're full. And we talk to them and they say, we want to work for the state police, or we want to work for county because you have a take-home car, and and that's not something that we currently offer. So we started looking into that. We would be the only large municipal agency in the state that would be doing that if it goes through. And in looking at it, it's costs effective in the long run. There is some cost savings. It's definitely a big upfront cost, but in the long run, it's cost saving. And the thing for us with this also is that sense of increased visibility. You'd have cruisers and patrol cars in the community. And the other thing that we look at is the ability to respond. In a critical incident, we always need to be prepared for them. We don't wish and hope for them, but the ability to immediately respond to any kind of critical incident that happens Each officer would have their own cruiser. It's all set up, it's ready to go, and if they need to be called in for anything, that they're available to do so.
So substations, as we mentioned, really fit nicely into our real initiative of getting out to the community policing, and building relationships. So Lewiston used to have a number of substations around the city. They really are great community centers where officers can interact directly with the community. Visibility, again, is really important. There are a number of other key benefits you can see on the screen. But again, our focus is community policing. Our focus is building relationships. Our focus is getting out there into the community and being visible and being present, and hopefully being, building relationships with people that they know officers personally and can have conversations with them beyond just matters of law enforcement, or, obviously dealing with officers not just when you're in trouble, but when you want to talk to someone to talk about the community or talk to someone for advice, whatever it is. So this really fits, I think, is a key part of our strategy going forward. There are certainly some neighborhoods more than others that could stand to benefit from some of these substations being present, but we want to start looking for potential locations and spaces to open these things up. They wouldn't necessarily be staffed all the time by an officer, but we'd obviously try to staff them as much as possible, depending on where our staffing is. But from a visibility standpoint, a deterrent standpoint, and a community relations and building community standpoint, I think these are really important and would serve us really well into the future.
All right, flock safety. So I'm sure most of you here, or a lot of you here, know that we just recently obtained these. And these have been a great asset to us. As you can see, you look down at, we've had these in play for probably 2 months, roughly, maybe a little bit more than 2, definitely not 3. 3 shootings solved, 3 stolen vehicles, 1 stolen trailer, 4 felony domestic arrests, and 1 child kidnapping case assisted and resolved. Law enforcement, if you're paying attention, is really becoming more reliant on technology in today's world. That assists us very immensely. And this has been a huge resource, and we're very fortunate to have this. Drone technology, this is something that we're looking at. As I mentioned, we're down 8 officers, potentially going to be down 12 by the end of the summer if we don't get more officers. What this is it's called the Skydio X10, and it's basically a drone. They call it drone first responder. It doesn't replace an officer. You're not going to have a drone show up to your house when you call for help. But it's basically a tool that is set up at the station, and it's set up through the dispatch system where you determine priority calls. So if something came in that was a shooting or some sort of serious call, it will automatically fly to that location. So as far as a time savings for us, there's a process when people call in and say, this happened. The dispatch center has a call taker. They take the call. Then the call taker has to tell whoever's handling that area, so like if it would be Lewiston, hey, Lewiston has this call here. And then they have to tell the officer, go to this call. The way this is set up is that call comes in, whatever category we have that set to, it automatically responds to that area. So in cases like shootings, major issues, this would be sort of an eye in the sky, right? To get there before we get there, while we're responding, to have live what's going on as our officers are responding. If we need more officers, it's an excellent tool. One of the other things you can do with this is, let's say we're having issues, in front of Oak Park, and we know that it's a certain time of day that there's issues going on there. You can set this thing up to patrol that area for a certain period of time, and it will remain in that area if there's issues that we can monitor. And then obviously if a priority call, a serious call came in, it would automatically get dispatched there. So this is something we're looking at. They're very, very big nationwide. A lot of agencies have, 6, 7, 8, 10 of these things, but they're great. There's a little video just to kind of show you what it does. We don't have any yet. We're looking at it.
Inside apartment 313, 1343, stopping the vehicle, Central and 40th.
When we first went live with drones, a few weeks into it, we had an incident where a subject shot an officer.
All units, citizen reports, officer needs help.
Within a minute and a half, we had 2 drones on scene.
9330.
Needs help, 3742 West
The
Market.
officer was alive, and we had a live view of what was going on with that subject as the arrest team's going around the house. So it creates a safer environment for everybody. With Axon, with Fusus, with Gadio, it's just amazing some of the things that they've been able to do. I mean, they've solved homicides within 30 minutes, pulling up cameras and watching the subject leaving the homicide scene, and we get the tag and we run it and we find the person, and literally they've solved homicides before the officers even get finished up interviewing people. So this has changed how we operate. In 2020, obviously our world changed, and manpower became critical. Things that we took for granted no longer were as easy as they were before, and the information we needed, we didn't have.
And so you've got to find a way to fulfill those gaps. And being able to use a drone as a first responder program, supplementing the officers in the field, is kind of what led us initially down that path. And the more that we got into it, the more that we were able to see the benefits.
It's a game changer.
So drone intelligence improves decision-making in high-risk situations by providing that big picture bird's eye view.
If I know where the fire is, I know where to send my people. I know when to pull my people out if the structure's starting to change.
It also allows us to get the right resources there. So if they see something that's critical, that needs special units to help with mental health, help with medical, or help with fire, now we're going to be able to send the right resources to take care of the problem the right way.
The other side of that is if we can deploy a drone from a dock and definitively clear that call without ever having to send an officer, that now frees that officer up to go take another call.
It has been incredibly helpful in freeing up our officers to focus on what needs to be focused on.
Integrating drones is definitely a force multiplier. It adds that additional tool to our resources.
You've got drone as a first responder, and it ties into your evidence.com. It ties into Fusus. It ties in to make everything successful for the officers.
Being able to zoom in an area and see all the things that are happening there, being able to pull up addresses and run tags and find out where that car is going to possibly and who they're associated with.
All of that is on one screen. We can see all those resources at the same time and get that information quickly to officers.
With drones, you get a different perspective than you do from 1,000 feet in the sky. You're able to drop down and see into culverts and see under brushes and see in through barn doors. We had a subject who was wanting to do a suicide by cop, and he's in the middle of a cemetery. I mean, there's no way we could have approached him safely. But through the drone, we were able to communicate with him and talk him down. He basically surrendered to the drone, and we were able to get him the help he needed.
I get phone calls from agencies all over the United States every week asking about DFR, asking about Axon. From what I explained to them on the phone, their next question is, when can I come out? I want to come see what you're doing. What do we need to truly do to have this type of program, to have this type of success?
You want to make sure what you're doing is going to fit in with everything else that you have. And with Axon, with Fusus, with Gadio, they all work together seamlessly. If you're looking at doing something on this level, you need to make sure you have the right partner to do things with. And that's what we were shooting for when we were aiming for 5 years ago with Axon, is being something better than we've ever had. And we truly have that today.
Okay, that is our slide deck. Before we take questions, I do just want to really thank Great Falls Forum Library for the invite and having us here today. I did neglect at the beginning to recognize our district attorney is here, District Attorney McLean. Thank you for being here. Appreciate it. And we're happy to take questions now, but before we do, I just want to say also, I want to thank Chief Conley for taking this position. We have huge hopes and expectations for her, and I know she's going to meet them. It's just been really great working with her just in the last, what has it been so far? Month or two? A couple months? Yeah, it's hard to tell. But so thank you. We have huge expectations for the future of LPD. We have a number of challenges in this community, but I know there are challenges that we can meet. There are a number of different tools we can use. But again, I just want to say building community is so important. Getting out into neighborhoods is so important. Relating to people one-on-one is really so important. We're going to continue to be doing events like this, meet and greet events, and do as much as we can with community policing. I'm really excited about substations. I think, the police department and the city can't do it on our own. It does take community. It takes a whole community of people to get together to start solving some of these problems. And so we really look forward to partnering with all of you. Thank you for being here to take on some of these challenges and make real progress for the city. And I know both the chief and I and all city staff are really excited to do that. And we have huge hopes for the future. So thank you for being here. And I think we'll do some questions.
All right, and we do have 40 people in the room and another 25 or so online, so we're going to try to get to as many questions as we can. Just please be respectful of everyone's time and knowing that many people have questions.
Hello. Yes, as the mayor of Lewiston, I want to say thank you for taking this job. We're excited about you, and I appreciate your renewed focus on community engagement. Thank you so much, Chief Conley.
What's your question? Is that a statement or a question?
I'm going to circulate as fast as I can here.
We're excited about Chief Conley.
What about me?
Hello.
Hi.
So I think immigration enforcement is probably on a lot of people's minds right now, and I wondered if you could speak to the department's approach with integrating with immigration enforcement, and specifically, given some of the lawless behavior that we've seen in other cities by these officers, if you are willing and prepared to enforce the law against them if necessary.
So as far as integration, as an agency, we have no authority to, and we're not involved in any kind of federal immigration laws. We have no authority to do so. Our main focus is the safety of the community here as an agency. And, our hopes are that, regardless of the side or how you view it, that we can maintain safety and order in the city of Lewiston. That's really our main goal.
Keep your hands up if you have questions.
Thank you. I got two questions. Number one, since you're short-staffed, your overtime budget must be equal to 2 or 3 positions, I presume. I mean, you got to be spending a lot of money on overtime, correct?
We spend a decent amount on overtime.
Okay. Well, it's got to be equivalent to at least a position or 2.
Yeah.
Also, what's the cost of a drone, or to set the program up?
So I think it's a 5-year program, and the first year they would also, we would be able to do a trade-in for our drone. And they're also going to give us an extra drone, so it would be about $26,000. I think it jumps up, don't quote me on it, to around $60,000 a year after that. I'm sorry?
For running the drones or for buying drones?
For that particular drone, it would be 60,000 a year after, I believe. So the initial year is 26,000 based on the trade-in that we have a current drone that they would take.
Could you explain your interaction with the Auburn Police Department, and could a drone be bought by both departments to serve both cities?
So we work very well together. I was with Chief Moen yesterday. The challenge with that is we don't dispatch to the same locations. So if you have it set up for priority calls, and I'm not saying that it couldn't be done, but I think the challenge would be if they had that same priority call and we had the same priority call, where does the drone go? But that's definitely conversations we could have.
Yeah, I have a multi-part question on the recruitment challenges you're facing. I assume that we're not lowering standards in order to deal with those challenges. Correct me if I'm wrong. Another question I have is about recruitment within the community. Historically, in most municipalities, the police force comes from the community that they're policing. Has there been a trend is that still the case? And has there been a trend one way or the other? And then finally, does the distinct nature of the community in Lewiston present specific challenges for recruitment, and does it require special screening of applicants and so on?
So, I mean, the standards for the academy are pretty, we don't create those, right? That's created by the academy and the state. There's certain standards that you have to meet, you know, based on physical fitness, the psychological, the polygraph, age. So they really set the standard for us for that. So that, you know, that's not something that we were in control of. As far as in the community, I don't think we've definitely not lowered our standards. As far as people from here versus not, it ebbs and flows, to be honest. I mean, we interviewed somebody yesterday that's grown up in Lewiston all his life, and that's his goal. We interviewed somebody from New Orleans, right? So I think it's pretty consistently not, it depends. You know, it's not one of those things where all of our applicants are from Lewiston, Auburn, Sabattis, Androscoggin County. I think we have kind of a good variety, to be honest. Did I answer all your questions? I might have missed one.
Sorry, do you feel like the Lewiston Police Department is dealing with any kind of stigma within the community that's making recruitment from within the community more challenging?
No, I think, I want to be honest, I think law enforcement in general, recruitment's hard. You know, like you look at us, we're down 8 officers. Portland, I think, is down 20 or something like that. It's a challenge. It's just, times have changed, and I think it's challenging for all law enforcement agencies to recruit. One of the things that I would say that's positive about our agency that I think we're very fortunate to retain. So you'll see officers who jump from police department to police department, they're not happy. We don't lose officers once they come to Lewiston, you know, other than, you know, the typical retirement, which everybody retires, right? So, you know, I don't think that's an issue.
I just wanted to add on to the residency piece. I think it would be great. We want to, of course, encourage officers to live in Lewiston and be part of the community. The chief and I both live in Lewiston. I'm required to, but I would have anyway. But I think it's a great idea to encourage officers to live in the community they serve. We didn't talk about this today, but I would actually love to see a program to encourage new officers to live in the community, possibly with a housing stipend to help with a rent payment or a mortgage if you choose to live in our community and become engaged in the community. So I think it's always something to strive for, and I think probably would benefit us in the future if we could talk about a housing program like that to encourage officers to live in the community they serve.
Hi, thank you again for the presentation. Thank you for accepting the role. Concern for public safety can sometimes be an umbrella term that's used to mask discrimination that's based in fear of differences, racial differences, class-based differences. Is that something you would acknowledge? And my question is, how does your training for your recruits address that? And how does your community outreach in the community address that with citizens who may, mask their fears that are discrimination-based as public safety concerns?
Yeah, I mean, as far as the training goes, that's a huge piece of training that starts in the police academy, and we do regularly throughout the year in several areas at the agency. We're also nationally accredited. We're one of the few in the state of Maine. And what that is there's certain standards to be a police department, but to be accredited nationally, those standards are even higher. So with that comes even additional training and things like that, and involves like policy making. There's requirements there. And I understand where you're coming from, but the concerns, the outreach that we do, we really try to, that's part of like the listening sessions, that's part of what our CROW team does. Can we do more? Yes. Would we love to do more? Yes. And I'm open to that. But I think some of that, I think it's important to have that community connection in the small groups, because I think that's what helps separate the perceptions.
I had a couple more people in the room who had questions, but we also have some questions online. I don't want to ignore our folks that are asking questions there. So a question about the flock cameras came in. Does Lewiston PD yet have a final policy in place for the use of flock cameras? What is PD doing to secure data collected with the cameras and promote trust within the community regarding their use?
Yes, we do have a policy. That's a final policy. And as far as, that's something that's available for anybody to see. And yes, there's security measures that are in place that the data is with us and only with us.
Thanks. I got a couple more people here. Right behind you.
Thank you. What is the police department doing to slow down the people that can't read speed limit signs? Did I say that right?
I like the way you worded that. So you're concerned about speeding. Yeah, that's, as you can see, we make about 5,000 stops a year. We probably could make more. Traffic stops, speeding can be an issue, especially in the spring and summer months. It's winter time and people have been, stuck in the house, and it's the first sunny day and they're flying down the roads. It's one of those things we ask our officers to be proactive on it, but we also deal with situations where sometimes it's, a certain area that we're consistently having issues with. And when that's the case, we'll set up the radar trailer, we'll focus on that area. We also work with Public Works sometimes to change the road structure a little bit, right? Because sometimes that can help. So those are some of the things that we do.
Yeah, I think there's the enforcement. There's also the traffic calming measures is really important too. There are a number of things that can be done, but even some simple things as usually a narrower roadway or the perception of a narrower roadway slows people down. So even things as simple as, I'm a big proponent of street trees. Even tree-lined streets that are heavily tree-lined provide a narrower look and have even shown to slow speed of vehicles passing through down. So there are a number of traffic calming measures you can also look at. They're varying in cost, of course, and that's always some barrier. A speed bump is not always a one-size-fits-all solution to everything. So certainly there's the enforcement piece, but I think we could also look at a lot of traffic calming measures that can be implemented also.
All right, I think we've got time for one more question here.
Oh, but I had two questions. Hi, Chief Conley. My name is Julia Harper. I guess I'll just start and I'll try to go really quickly. So you said Officer Bergeron is going to be doing community engagement. That's really wonderful. I'm curious, I'm part of a downtown group that has kind of more recently focused on the Transformation Action Group, and we have a kind of recent community safety team that's really looking at particular areas of the Tree Street neighborhood that have been subject to gun violence and thinking about how we can improve community safety and kind of looking at the kind of operating out of the theory of like connection equals protection, like the more we can connect. And so I was just curious what your recommendation would be about engaging LPD in that.
Yeah, if you want, I can meet with you after real quick and I can get you the contact. It would be Sergeant Desiree Michoud or Officer Bergeron. And you could touch base with them and they'll come meet with you and work on some, collaboratively what you guys could do together.
Fantastic, thank you. And can I just make a comment? This one is actually for both Administrator Kaenrath and yourself. It's really just around, I'm glad to hear that there's a policy for the flock cameras use, because I think there's a lot of just unintended consequences that can happen when there's like surveillance technology in place. And in general, I think across the nation, there's been a lot of concern around sort of like technology going faster than like our regulations and our laws to like protect people's rights has kept up with. So yeah, that would be something that I would definitely be like advocating for if we were looking at drones. Like, how are we making sure that all the unintended consequences, potential unintended consequences, are taken care of to protect citizen rights and privacy and all of that? Yeah.
We didn't. Did you have any response to the comment here that Julia had made before we move on to anything else?
No, I just was taking that as feedback. And I mean,
I'll just say, message heard loud and clear. Technology is moving so fast today. And I think it's important that, our police department looks at a lot of these technologies and decides what's a good fit for Lewiston. Something that necessarily works in Los Angeles isn't necessarily a fit for Lewiston, Maine, for our community. So I think it is important that we take a look at whatever these technologies are and determine if they're a good fit for our community here, because I'm not a believer in one size fits all. If it works in New York City or Los Angeles or somewhere else with, to be quite honest, a different culture than we have, here, that doesn't make it the right fit here. So I think we're committed to taking a strong look at, what is potentially useful here, and then also getting public feedback. Like we talked about, public engagement and feedback, I want to see as a big part of policing, in this community. So we appreciate that sort of feedback and welcome and encourage more of it. And we will take these one at a time and determine what fits well here and what's best for our community members in Lewiston.
All right, one more round of applause. Thank you, everyone, for being here.